Well, I want to put this out and give you my blatant opinion on Jewish Defense League and Irv Rubin, who was actually the founder of it. And I know, like, a lot of times people are maybe afraid to say, and the official story is that Irv died of suicide in the jail. And I was like, no way in hell. No way. No way. It's impossible, actually. And, in some ways, I could say, like, the JDL probably wasn't the best thing in some ways because um, it drew too much attention to certain things and unwanted attention maybe, but in a lot of ways Irv was right on a lot of things he did. Um, and he's outspoken guy. I mean, that's really what it is. I know he got in like what it was. If you actually look on YouTube, if you ever look at with David Cole, which was not his real name. He was somebody that went around who was of Jewish heritage and blood that went around and examined the Holocaust and from another angle. And I think his work is like good because you got to be accurate with things, or else if you put one inaccuracy in with something, then people tend not to believe the rest of it. Right? That's one of the problems of not having a story down exactly right. But I think I tell you the truth. I'm not Jewish, right? And I don't. But it's almost like I should really come at this from a non-Jew, and nobody's paying me to do this because I know what the accusation is on YouTube, and this is not one of those super popular subjects on YouTube that's going to get gazillions of views. So I mean, what am I doing this for, right? Really, what am I doing this for? Nothing really. It's just something that bugged me because I think a lot of people are afraid to say that this guy obviously was murdered in jail because he would have been totally exonerated. It was the day he was going to the hearing or the trial, and supposedly he cut his own throat, went over this huge balcony head first, like somebody dropped him from his feet head first, obviously after they cut his throat, and the FBI was the ones that were after him. They were after him, and people are afraid to say. I think it was the FBI that was really trying to get rid of him. Besides other people, hey, I don't know, but I mean, I can't prove that. But hey, it's not like it takes a rocket scientist to really put two and two together. I mean, look at a lot of things that have happened where the government tried to get rid of people that were vocal. And I really want to put this in perspective because if you look at like in the UK, for instance, yeah, JDL is in the UK. I mean, Irv Rubin was from Canada, and he lived in. Later on, he became American citizen, and he lived in California mainly. And he was a Vietnam veteran, which is more than you could say about our former president Bill Clinton, who was a Vietnam draft dodger. But if you look at terrorist organizations in the UK soil, the JDL doesn't even show up on the radar, for crying out loud. It's not even, you got the Irish separatists, animal welfare, Welsh nationalists, Islamic peoples, I don't know, Scottish separatists. It's like Gaddafi, neo-Nazi, Kurdish, Antichrist groups, and blah, blah, blah. It's not even on the radar. I mean, it's not even there. It's less than, whatever it would be, if it's on here, it's way less than 1% of terrorist incidents, but it's labeled a terrorist organization. And I guess that's one of the problems of being, I think one of the things what is really a problem is, that maybe, I know it's supposed to be in defense of the Jewish people, but maybe somebody could take it as offense, But just want to get into some things on this because, I really think he was murdered by the government, even more so than other parties. And really, it was the government that put him in jail, for crying out loud. They were trying to set him up. And he was a libertarian. I'd have to agree with this guy politically. Before joining the Libertarian Party in 2000, Irv Rubin was an active Rubin was an active Republican and served as a page at the 1964 Republican National Convention when Barry Goldwater was around. Hey, being nominated, right? So he's a conservative guy, man. A lot different from Soros. I mean, Soros ain't a Jew, for crying out loud. The JDL claims that Danny Gillis struck a deal with the FBI to neutralize the JDL, Jewish Defense League, by infiltrating the organization and by arranging criminal charges on its leadership. Now, one of the things where Irv would have been totally exonerated was that he had an actual recording, because I think they tried to set him off for freaking blowing up something, mosque or something. I don't know what they said exactly, but he had a recording of him saying not to do that. He said they suggested to do that, but he said not to do that, and he was recording. So, he would have been totally, the case would have freaking totally came apart, and would have been right back. It would have been wrongful arrest, wrongful charges, and and he would have been a lawsuit and everything. But he quote unquote committed suicide, right? Now, obviously, as a guy that's not Jewish, maybe I can get a little stronger on this, because I think sometimes, I know you people out there that aren't Jewish, you're going to be thinking, what the hell's this guy doing? Playing, honestly, I'm going against the grain in probably a lot of different ways. But honestly, I think a lot of people are afraid to stick up for this guy, and some people are kind of beating around the bush, and it's obvious it wasn't a suicide. For crying out loud. I mean, Vince Foster's a suicide too, right? Get out of here. Anyway, so however, according to the Jewish Journal of Los Angeles, Gillis was a former JDL member who joined the organization due to conflicts with right skinheads. I don't know what the hell that means. But, the thing is with this, when Irv died in prison, the type of razor they used to slice his throat was deliberately designed that it bends like weak paper. The only way you can actually shave with it is you have to have a special razor holder. So, he wasn't cut with the typical razors that they use to shave with, and that's supposedly what they did. And then for him to fall directly on his head, which took, in other words, it took like a week for him to die from head injuries. And that was another thing indicating that, how the hell does he climb up this huge banister after cutting his throat and land directly on his head? Which, in other words, how would you land directly on your heads? Somebody has you holding you by your feet, and you let go, and then you land on your head. See? I mean, maybe that's too horrible to say on here, but I got to give it to you, like, really, this guy was not a suicide. It wasn't. And, considering he was all set up, you obviously, what's my number one suspect? The government itself, who was trying to set him up. And, I showed you statistics that the JDL actually is, if it's a terrorist organization or whatever the hell it is, it's a lot less terrorist organization than a lot of other terrorist organizations, because they don't even show up on the radar. You don't even hear about them today, for crying out loud. It's like, and, it really is defense. I guess, it probably should have been a different emblem or whatever to show what the organization was about, like the corporate slogan, whatever you want to call it, the fist with the Jewish star, the Star of David. But maybe the fist incorporated in that was too strong, because it could be a mixed message. Maybe it's a message of defense, but maybe it's a message of offense, even though they're claiming not to be offense. So maybe that's not the best advertising slogan to use. So, on here on Wikipedia it says Rubin's throat was cut, and then he tumbled off an 18 to 20 foot balcony. He had been threatening suicide days before. No, he wasn't. That's the thing. He was looking forward every day to this hearing where he could actually go out there and say, hey, I could prove your whole case is BS. And I actually have the recordings that could do that. So, what I have to tell you about this is that, it's like, well, maybe, I hate to say it, but maybe the Jewish community is even afraid to get behind this guy. I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know. Because he's a little too controversial. I mean, that's really pretty much say that. And having a lot of attention put on people because somebody's very outspoken, that could be, a problem for everybody. So, people back away from him. And, actually, a lot of stuff I kind of agree. This would be. That's why, I'm not Jewish, but God, if I was, I'd probably be a pretty extreme one. I can tell you that right now because I think Israel, and I agree with Robbie Khan, is that Israel should be for Jews only. It should be a Jewish state. If you're going to have a Jewish state, Jewish only, right? The hell with it. I mean, I'm not Jewish. I'm Catholic, for crying out loud. But it's like, what the heck? I mean, if you're going to have a Jewish state, you have a Jewish, right? It's like saying the Vatican, right? Vatican City. Oh, it's not going to be, it's not going to be Catholic. What the hell? That's what it is, right? So, in a lot of ways, that would make me an extremist, right? I'm like, yeah, right. But, I'm going to tell you something a little bit about ancient history, too, because a lot of times people don't even realize, the world could have been very different. I think 363 AD was like a jinx, big time, for the whole world, really. One of the emperors I respect the most of all the Roman emperors, not the only one, but he's one of the top ones, was Julian, named Julian the Apostate by the Christians. Now, Christianity today is a lot different from what it was way back when. Way back when, during the Roman Empire, Christians were troublemakers, believe it or not. They were out there clobbering each other over religious different things, like disagreeing with each other, kind of like you might see certain other people out there in the Middle East today, right, that aren't Christians, right? And they were a radical group. They were actually destabilizing force in the empire. They would fight each other over, is it the divinity the truth, or is it the Trinity the truth? Or, but they wouldn't fight for the empire against, the Rome's emperors. Rome's enemies, I meant to say, right? So the Emperor Julian saw them as a threat. And being logical, at the time, Christians, I know the way they paint it today. It's like, yeah, they're all thrown to the lions because these pagans. Well, the Christians were big troublemakers back then. A lot of them were. A lot of them weren't really practicing even what they're supposed to be preaching, right? Supposed to be believing in, like with Jesus, who was like, total pacifist. These other Christians, as a matter of fact, a lot of the Roman legionnaires used to remark that they'd rather fight the fiercest barbarians than go against the religious Christian zealots. That's how freaking radical they were. So what does that kind of remind you of even today, right? Christianity got, kind of calmed down a lot from after, Roman times and the medieval times and this, the Salem witch hunts and all that. Now today it's kind of like mellow, right? Now, the thing is, with Julian, when he was around, little known fact, he gave orders to rebuild the second temple, which was destroyed in 69-70 AD when they had a great Jewish revolt, which also happened to be a great tumultuous time for the Roman Empire because they had the 4 Roman emperors, which was Galba, Otho, Vitellius, and Vespasian. I'm doing this off of memory, so those are the right names, though. But let me put it to you this way. It was like, if he lived, the second temple would have been rebuilt. The Persians would have been defeated, and the empire, the whole map of the world would have been different. The empire's borders would have been much further along. Now, one reason I really respect this guy a lot, too, besides being a logical philosopher and somebody that doesn't get involved in all the crazy, pagan and rituals and the Christian zealots fighting each other, he was just, a logic guy, basically. That's all he was. But he was out there fighting at the head of his troops. And what happened was there was a rout of his troops because they got caught out in an area. They were outnumbered, and the Persians had them surrounded. And Julian rallied his troops, forgot his armor. Well, he didn't have time to get his armor. He didn't forget it. And he rallied his troops, saved his troops by rallying them, by actually being right in there in the battle. And then he was mortally wounded, which took 2 or 3 days for him to die. And then after he died, policy changed. No longer were they, was Rome, looking to extend out their borders further to secure them against the Persians. No longer was Rome going to, have, the orders were no longer in place to rebuild the second temple. If he had lived, there would be no problems today in the Middle East, probably none. That's amazing. I don't know why, people don't even pick that up on history books, but that's kind of amazing. In a lot of ways, he's kind of like my favorite emperor. He's one of my favorites for sure. But you know, it's amazing how we only know snippets of history and things like that, and a lot of different things. I have to also say this about Irv, because you know they painted this guy. I don't know. You probably you don't hear about him today. Maybe I don't know. Maybe that's the deal. He used to be around. I remember when a JDL was always in the news. I kind of liked this guy. I kind of liked him in a lot of ways. I know that maybe I shouldn't say that because like they're terrorists, but I don't think they are terrorists. Um, it was some, but the problem is it got too much attention. That was the main problem with it. It got too much attention. And when it gets too much attention, then you just I don't know. Maybe you got to kind of work behind the scenes. But I respect this guy, to tell you the truth. Um, you know, David Cole probably does have some points on some things. Which I probably I mean, there's probably some inaccuracies in the Holocaust story. Who knows? But I even look at that like before. When I look at it like this, if you're a person that's living in a country and you're dedicated to the country and you got a business there, and some of these goons are coming along telling you to go out of your house and go someplace, that alone is enough reason to waste those goons. I'm going to tell you that right now, without even getting into all the other stuff. I mean, right from day one, right at that inception point, that's enough reason to waste those goons, and that's really one of the reasons you should have a JDL. You know, probably should change the corporate logo, whatever you want to call it, with the fist, because even though the fist is supposed to mean defense, and it's in the word Jewish Defense League, the fist kind of connotates aggression. You know, I don't know, something else there. I don't know what. A menorah. I don't know I don't know something. I mean, for crying out loud. But it's like maybe that's not the right corporate logo. I don't know, but in a lot of ways, I just got to take up for this because this guy, it's like definite. He was murdered. Ugh. You got to be kidding me. He was not. If you think he was suicided, you think Vince Foster was suicided. Okay. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's beyond ridiculous. This guy would have wanted his day in court and to clear up what was going on, and he would have won easily because he had it recorded that he was telling the person that was trying to get him to do something bad not to do it. He was telling the person that the person was telling him to go bomb mosque, and he was saying, "No, don't bomb mosque." So I mean, he would have been totally exonerated. But the government was trying to set him up. So I'm assuming if the government set him up in the first place and infiltrated the organization, I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out who the hell killed him. Because if he went to the court, not only would he have been exonerated, it would have been wrongful arrest, wrongful this, the whole thing. He would have a big lawsuit on his hand. But oh no. The story is he committed suicide. He didn't commit suicide. I want to straighten that out. And, maybe it's got to come from somebody like me who's not even affiliated with Jews at all, really, in the least. And I'm not working for, I don't know what the hell's corporation, multimedia corporation. Not working for anybody. I'm just telling you, it's obvious. It's obvious as all hell. And, I kind of like this guy better because you really know what the hell the deal is with him. It's not like he's telling you one thing and doing something else. He's telling you, lay off the Jews. I'm going to kick your ass. He's all right. I mean, I really do agree with that. And actually, to tell you the truth, I think a lot of things, really, when you put it down into simple, logic, somebody. And I don't even know why they call these rabbis more radical, like Israel, like even the state of Israel kicked out Rabbi Kana, whatever his name is, that he was considered radical. And I'm like thinking, well, crap, that's another reason I probably wouldn't be Jewish, because I'd probably really be a really radical one for sure. Because, I mean, if you're going to have a Jewish state, well, shouldn't it be for Jews? I mean, really? That's racist? Well, what do you mean? It's just a country? You just call it anything Israel and it's what does it mean? You know? I don't even think. I mean, so what? You just do your own thing, man. It's your own free. It's your land. It's your heritage, and all this other stuff. And I know some people are going to go, "Yeah, what about the Palestinians?" Well, I don't think they're doing a lot of stuff that's too good. I tell you the truth, big time. Um, but I know which way the pendulum has been going lately. Back in the '60s, late '60s, and the '70s, um, seemed like worldwide Jewish people were kind of like riding on a high, and things have been changing lately. I noticed that, and I know maybe there should be a happy medium, but I could tell you right now, I don't think a lot of things are really set right the way they should be, and you know, people are even talking about Israel. Honestly, I think Jerusalem needs to be the capital of Israel. They need to man, this sounds really freaking radical as shit. They need to rebuild the second temple, screwing around, and take over the real estate, and they need to it needs to be established as a Jewish state. I mean, what the heck? What the heck's it supposed to be? I mean, really? I mean, yeah, like look at the Pope. He's got the Vatican with the big walls. I mean, I'm Catholic. I mean, I don't agree with this Pope though. I think he's a New World Order operative. Pope Francis. I don't like this guy at all. But I got to tell you right now. I mean, if you, what are you gonna do? I mean, it's not like it belongs to all the Catholic peoples, right? The Vatican, right? It's not like you just we're gonna bring in everybody else now because no, it's Vatican, it's Vatican City, right? I mean, that's the way I should look at what Israel should be. It's for Jews. And I guess it makes me a radical Jew, right? I'm not a Jew though. I'm a Catholic, but I don't know. I mean, I just look at this shit. Freaking from day one, obvious, and it's a shame. Well, honestly, I think a lot of Jews are afraid to say some of this shit, and I know why. Because there's a lot of people out there. They just jump to these wrong conclusions and stuff. It's ridiculous, and well, not everybody thinks the same anyway, no matter what group you're from. Like, I know there's a lot of people that are Catholic, they worship the Pope, and I'm like, I don't like that guy. I don't like that guy at all, man. Oh, God, not in the least. And, a lot of Christians would freaking really they'd be pissed off that I like this Julian the apostate guy, but I think this guy was pure logic, because, I know they gloss over the history books a lot with the, early Christianity. Well, by the time they got down a few centuries, they were getting pretty damn radical. And it's all over in the history books if you really dig in, like what was going on with the Roman soldiers, the legionnaires were saying about the early Christians. They were so radical and so like crazy that the Roman soldiers would rather go up against the fiercest barbarians than the religious Christian zealots. They were just out there, man. Which kind of tells you, it's kind of like some of the stuff going on today, except they're not Christians, right? Right, YouTube? You love that shit, right? Anyway. Yeah, you're telling me it's freaking anyway. But anyway, I mean, I think this guy's all right, to tell you the truth. I mean, he's got his bad points, but mostly, this guy was okay. He was a good thing. They probably just need to change that corporate logo on the JDL, even though the fist is supposed to mean defense. I don't know. They need to put something else there. I don't know. Maybe they need to put like the mouse with the finger. Because that's what it is. I mean, really, I mean, when a Jewish Defense League is trying to defend Jews, it's like they're like the little guys, man. They're the underdogs, man. There ain't too many of them around. You know what I mean? I mean, really, man. That's what's going on here. And he was going up against the government. Maybe probably that would be more apt than, because that's really what it is. It's like the mouse giving a finger to the big cats. I mean, really, what do you expect, man? But this guy had the balls to do this shit, and he died for the cause. I respect this guy a lot, to tell you the truth. Man, I think Israel should just be it should be a Jewish state. I mean, that's not a bad thing. I mean, it's like, so you live, if you want to live in Israel, you're Jewish. You don't want to be Jewish, don't and you live in Israel, well, you're not gonna have exactly the same freaking community rights as everybody else. But that's because that's the way it is in that one country. So you don't live there, right? Is that wrong? I don't think so. I don't see what the hell's wrong with it. I mean, I think they do that in Vatican City. I don't even think you're allowed to live there. Did you ever try to buy property in Vatican City? You think the Pope would let you over that wall? I don't think so. You could test it, see if the what the hell's the Pope's guards? You put a grappling hook, you put it on a wall, see if you go over there. I know he was criticizing the wall Trump was doing, and Trump, man, that's something else. That's another story because I don't think Trump was serious about that wall. I was like, that was so weird. He said that shit because I was thinking, yeah, we're gonna build a wall, and Mexico's saying we got a tunnel. I mean, come on, man. Actually, this whole thing's a bunch of bullshit. Really, you know what it is? We got a lot of games going on in a New World Order, if you want to call it that. They pit people against each other on purpose to control us. And you got to look at that angle, too. Everything is a damn show. And, I can't figure everything out, but I use a lot of common sense. But I just got to say, I respect this guy, Irv. I think he was a good guy in a lot of ways, but he wasn't perfect. But, he's somebody that believed in what he was doing. He stood up for it. He paid the ultimate price. So, I got to say, man. So, and like, if you think I'm getting some, this video is going to get around to get 3 million hits, you got to be crazy because I doubt that very. I think that would be like, I think 3 lightning strike in 3 times in the same place would be more likely than that. This is a niche video, so don't go accusing me that somebody's paying me to do this shit or whatever. I ain't. If somebody was paying me to do this shit, I wouldn't do it. This is coming from me, moi, only. Period. That's it.